All right, thank you to everybody who stayed along for that roller coaster of a ride there. I'm a little bit sad that we are coming to the end of our 2 days, but we do expect to finish with a bang here. Our final panel before we get on to some drinks, which I hope everybody sticks around for, is called Layer 1 Evolution, Defining the Next Phase of Blockchain Infrastructure. Please help me welcome to the stage Benjamin Minku, founder of MultiversX, Arthur Brightman, co-founder of Tezos, Eric Piscini, CEO of Hedera Hashgraph, Kostas Chalkas, co-founder and chief cryptographer of Miston Labs, and moderator Shiraz Ahmed, managing partner of Storm Partners. Welcome to the stage, gentlemen. Welcome to the stage.
All right, fantastic. Well, it's great to see you all here. I guess you're probably waiting for the cocktails to come, but at least you have a great conversation before we go into the after party. Actually, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I mean, I'm very surprised that none of our speakers here have any black eyes. It was quite an intense conversation backstage. Very much looking forward to presenting that to you all today. Maybe to give you a little bit of context, I'm going to be your moderator today. My name is Shiraz Ahmed, managing partner of Storm Partners. It's a great pleasure to be with you from Switzerland, and we're going to be discussing a little bit about the Layer 1 and their evolutions. I mean, Layer 1s now have millions of users, $1 billion in valuation. It's no longer just a project. It's something that is definitely real and tangible, as you can see from the men up here in front of you today. I'm going to give them a quick 30 seconds to just introduce themselves, and maybe you can give a quick USP of the blockchain you're representing today. Kostas, if you want to start.
Of course, I can start first. Thank you so much. So I'm Kostas. I'm in the blockchain space since 2009, pretty much working with the team of Satoshi at the very beginning. I was an auditor for Ethereum many years. I broke many smart contracts. Eventually, I was hired by Mark Zuckerberg for the Libra project on Facebook. And then now I'm on the Miston Labs, who is pretty much the creator of the SUI blockchain and Walrus for storage. Myself, I'm still a coder, pretty much a co-founder, but I'm writing code almost every day and designs. And on the cryptography side, I'm doing zero-knowledge proofs.
Good afternoon. Are you ready for drinks? I know you are ready for drinks. My name is Eric Piscini. I was born here, but I live in the US. I've been in blockchain for about 12 years. And I'm currently the CEO of Hashgraph, which is the team behind the Hedera network.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arthur Brightman. I was also born here. I'm a co-founder of Tezos, which is a blockchain network. Exciting stuff. So, hello, Paris. Really great to be here. Always excited to meet the people in Paris. Great to see so many people actually coming. Benjamin Minku, co-founder of MultiversX Labs. We built an internet-scale blockchain. It's live, and now you can also vibe code on it. Just build something cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Maybe can we get a raise of hands just to show the builders? Are there any builders on the MultiversX protocol over here? All right.
Woo!
Tezos. Well, yeah. Hedera. There you go. And SUI. All right. OK. Still some great builders in the room. OK. So before we begin, I mean, I think it's important to note that from the USPs that I've kind of noted, that MultiversX talks speed, Tezos talks governance, Hedera talks enterprise, and SUI programmability. So there's going to be some interesting questions, I think, around those topics to be able to understand from each one what are their USPs. And I think, Benjamin, if we start with yourself around the whole performance and finality of things, I wanted to get your understanding of, is speed still a bottleneck in 2025? I know that you just released Andromeda, so just get an understanding from your side as you talk often about speed. Is it still a bottleneck? Is it something we should still be talking about TPS or not?
So the most important point that I think we should always look at is technology ideally should feel almost sci-fi. That is, when you use the technology, you should not care what you use under the hood. You should just have this type of experience that feels as close to being magical. We've released Andromeda, and we have the Supernova release that's coming with sub-second finality in addition to the massive scalability that the network has. The fact that Andromeda is live and we have the one-shot finality is just something extremely tangible and useful for users and for builders alike. But the Supernova part will literally make it feel a bit sci-fi. Like you tap on a transaction, the sub-second finality is already like beyond the perception point where you need to think, wait, you just experience the technology. So I feel that's the extraordinary part that you don't have to care about it. And in addition to that, we have this cool, sexy app that we've just released last week, which is MultiversX. This just takes the barrier so low that average users from wherever they may be in the world can use AI to vibe code on MultiversX. And I feel, again, for the builder, you want a magical experience. You should almost feel about building as you feel about playing an instrument. Taking the instrument, playing a bit, see what comes out of it. And we've seen a tremendously exciting response for people that have typically not been hardcore developers. And I think that's what's really exciting. Not the TPS, not the speed, that's great, just insofar as you don't need to think about it anymore because it just works. But when you have that experience that in any way comes to the point where it feels magical, I think that's when you found something.
Yeah, Vanessa, and I want to talk a little bit about vibe coding a little bit later, right? And understand, okay, is it just for that kind of whole demo side of things, or is there something more to it that can be created? But I love the magic feeling that you're describing. One of the reasons why I think a lot of us got involved in this space to begin with. But maybe, Kostas, if I go to yourself now, just on the same kind of line of thought that Benjamin had, right? Where SUI was designed for performance and object-oriented programming. I mean, how do you ensure speed whilst not compromising on security and or decentralization?
Yeah, for us it was quite different because the company that created SUI was coming from Facebook, right? And we knew how to serve billions of users, you know how to run infrastructure. And obviously we understood that if someone can create an account in more than 5 seconds, it's game over. They will never enter the blockchain space, especially for the fast population and like TikTok and Instagram and all of this stuff. So we tried to change the narrative completely from Ethereum and from Solana and all of the rest, and we said, look, people are familiar in traditional languages like Java, JavaScript, C++ with objects, which means that on Ethereum now, for example, you have an account, you go to your balance, you see $1 million, but in SUI, you see objects. You have nodes in different pockets. So by having this, when I want to pay you some money and I want to pay Benjamin some money, I can just put my hands in 2 different pockets and pay you concurrently. And that's how you can achieve speed. And this is why you didn't change anything in the narrative, so you didn't spend any threat models on the security of your system, and that's how you can maintain it by having parallelization. This is what we did. We created everything as an object. This is by far closer to the Bitcoin than any other network, because Bitcoin is also objects. Then Ethereum came, they tried to put everything in a balance. At the same time, they're also sacrificing some speed. There are congestion points. You cannot put your hands in one pocket, all of your hands, and have the speed that you're expecting. And that's why we did it. We had to find tricks like algorithms that you can have the same speed that Web 2 has now with probably better security and transparency. And all of this came like from knowledge from Silicon Valley that we expressed into Web 3.
Yeah, thank you. I love that metaphor that you kind of mentioned of you can't have your hand in multiple pockets at once. And so if we move on now, and I see, Arthur, you're eager to kind of get involved here. If we talk a little bit more and shift to governance and upgradability, right? I mean, a lot of people say that launching a protocol at the end of the day is kind of like running a marathon whilst tying your shoelace. It's not easy, but Tezos has proven that you've been upgrading on-chain since the very beginning. So maybe give us a little bit your perspective on what's the biggest lesson you've learned about a self-amending governance and that others potentially could take note of.
Yeah, so at the impetus of Tezos, at the very origin, there is this idea, and it sounds obvious now. You know, you see, of course, a blockchain is going to evolve. Of course, it's going to be innovation. But in 2013, 2014, that was not obvious. People would launch a blockchain with one feature. And everyone's going to say, we're going to have the blockchain that does X. We're going to have the blockchain that does Y. And of course, that doesn't work, because if you're going to have to launch a new blockchain for every single innovation, you're going to kill every network effect. And at the time, there were two schools of thoughts. One school of thought that was, well, these are decentralized systems, and if we want them to stay decentralized, they have to be immutable. We can't change the rules. And then there were other people who say, we can just hard fork. We'll have rough governance, and then we'll do the hard fork. And the analysis that was made in the original position paper of Tezos is that if you go by hard fork, your governance is going to be implicit, but is going to be captured by whoever controls the default. Whoever controls the default controls your blockchain. If you upgrade Ethereum by hard fork today, you are controlled by Circle. So Circle went to IPO. Imagine Circle was bought by Ripple, right? Ripple was trying to buy Circle. If tomorrow there's a hard fork of Ethereum and Circle says, you know what, we're only going to honor USDC on this branch and not that other branch, they get to decide which is the winning branch. So you've abdicated control of your chain to one centralized actor. That's a problem. And the solution proposed by Tezos is to say, let's formalize governance. You know, yeah, governance sucks. It's bad that we need to have governance, but pretending that you can upgrade by hard fork and that somehow it sidesteps governance is wrong. You're just shoving governance in this place where you don't see it. So on Tezos, the governance is very explicit. It happens on chain, it happens by vote, it's completely decentralized, and it's happened regularly since 2018 when the chain launched, from the first upgrade, Athens, to now the latest upgrade, Rio. We went through every letters of the alphabet. It has a rapid upgrade cadence. Now, that being said, the goal is not just decentralization. Because of this focus on upgrading, it's also a chain that is easy to upgrade. And so it's always been able to stay at the forefront of innovation. Now, two of the early technological pillars of Tezos were proof of stake. Tezos is the first network to launch with actual slashable proof of stake, so where something was actually at stake. We're the first to actually do it. I remember building Tezos and people saying, proof of stake is impossible, otherwise Ethereum would have already done it. Or proof of stake is going to come in 3 months in Ethereum, so it's not worth it. Well, we actually did it. The other one was smart contract language security. It's something, you know, we introduced, for example, linear types in virtual machine, which is something that was also adopted by, you know, Aptos and SUI, the more virtual machine. That being said, I will say that the market has demonstrated that it cares a lot more about developer experience today than it cares about security. I would still advise a bit of caution here. I love vibe coding as much as anyone. It's really fun to build like a lot of quick weekend projects. But if you're going to deal with people's money, their systems are very, very good at doing things 90% of the way. But like those 10% could hide money-losing bugs, and if you don't control the code base, you're not going to see them. So I'm really waiting until large language models are going to be able to automatically produce verifiable code. Once they produce verifiable code, it's going to be fantastic for smart contract development, and that's why a lot of development efforts on Tezos have been focused on being able to directly use languages for which there are large corpuses, meaning JavaScript, C, all these languages, because they're going to be the ones where there's the most fluency in those models. So anyways, yes, Tezos has governance, but that governance was a seed that really allowed the network to stay on top and innovate in developer experience, scaling, and a lot of other areas.
Yeah, no, greatly appreciate it. And I mean, Eric, I definitely want to hear from yourself in a bit, but as I was told in the backstage that without provocation, there is no conversation. And I feel like, Benjamin, maybe there's a bit of provocation there. I'll give you 10, 20 seconds to just respond to Arthur's comments, if you'd like.
No, I would just ask him if he had any bug on the mainnet up until this point since they launched. Did you discover or have any bug on the mainnet?
Of course there are bots on mainnet, yeah.
Critical?
Oh, bugs or bots?
Bugs.
Bugs, yes, yes. There's been some bugs on the mainnet. I think we had like one big critical one that needed a hard fork, and then smaller ones. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. When did you discover that? What was the situation? How did you discover the bug? Was it exploited?
No, it was not exploited. It was a security researcher doing a disclosure.
Interesting. And the hard fork required consensus from everyone, coordination, and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a post called "There Will Be Hard Forks" explaining that there's a huge difference if you have a social norm around hard forking for critical bugs as opposed to hard fork for feature changes. Once you hard fork for feature changes, it's a very slippery slope because this could affect the issuance, this could affect the functionality, this could affect many users. If you have, I would say, a clear specification of how the system is supposed to behave and you correct for that, then I think you have a very, very pragmatic reason to hard fork. It's a very different path, I would say, to governance. And I don't think, for example, to take the example of Circle again, if tomorrow there's a critical bug on Ethereum and Ethereum hard forks, Circle will not be in a position of saying, no, we want to stick with a branch that has a critical bug. So the problem doesn't really exist for those.
I think that makes a lot of sense, yeah. No, thank you for that. Eric, so to your point, and I mean, governance is it's a very tricky, very big word because governance can mean a lot of things. And I mean, for yourself, of course, within Hashgraph, let's talk about the blockchain Hedera here for a second, right? I mean, you're one of the only, or one of the most prominent blockchains that's working with real-world enterprises and like the larger ones. I mean, maybe can you give us some perspective here about the governance of that and how you balance a decentralized protocol's vision with boardroom accountability?
Yeah, and I think. So first, what I wanted to say is the performance of a blockchain today does not matter as much as what it used to be, right? Everybody is getting good TPS, good finality, good, right? So I don't think we're going to differentiate ourselves on the core of the technology anymore because everybody is kind of at that level. Governance is going to be a big differentiator. And from the beginning, 2018, Hedera said, we're going to build a governing council who's going to be the one deciding on how to run the network, how to upgrade the code, how to decide on any changes to the code. And we will run the nodes. So we are a permissioned public blockchain. And that's a big decision we made early on because we knew that in order to go talk to large enterprise, we needed that level of certainty from a governance point of view, right? It was very tricky for us to say the governance is going to be done by people you don't know, right? That's really hard to explain when you go to market. So we said, okay, now we have Google and IBM and Dell and many others running the network for us, and that's a credibility play that's really big for Hedera today.
Appreciate it. I'm going to come back to some of those case studies, but before I do, I want to go nuclear a little bit for a second here and pass the word again to Arthur. I mean, you've been tokenizing uranium, and maybe it's not the same uranium that makes nuclear bombs, but let's say a similar one. I mean, tell us more about that use case, because we know a lot of blockchains are tokenizing gold or some, let's say, easier ones. How did this idea come about? What is the impact of doing that, and your thoughts around kind of RWA's tokenization?
I mean, the first thing I would say is, like, if you want to buy gold, you have so many options, right? You could buy gold ETFs, you could buy gold coins. There are different fintechs that will sell you gold. You can buy futures. And yes, there's different products doing tokenized gold. I'm not against tokenized gold. It's great. But it's a market that's getting quite saturated. Now, what's a super important commodity? Uranium. Everyone's building new nuclear power plants at the moment. The projected demand for energy from AI data center is going through the roof. And people are not starting uranium mines fast enough. So uranium is a hugely important commodity, and compared to gold, it's completely neglected. Like, there's just no vehicles for doing it. There's a closed-end fund that trend in Canada and in the UK. They don't really track the NAV because they're closed. So there's just like no good access for something that should be super, super important. It's uranium oxide, by the way, U3O8. So it's before it's refined, also known as yellow cake. It's something you find in the ground. You don't want to eat it, but it's not as sensitive as refined uranium. So yeah, it's been super exciting because it's it's a product of the future. I also think that cryptocurrencies, in some form, you can think of them as technologically flavored commodities, and uranium is also a technologically flavored commodity. So if one appeals to you, maybe the other does as well. I'm super excited by it. It's like, can you get exposure to technology via a commodity?
Yeah.
And that's what uranium does.
No, I appreciate it. And maybe Eric, back to you. I mean, you've been very vocal that tokenization is really delivering real value, not just hype. Could you walk us through some of the use cases with some of the enterprises that you've been working on?
Yeah, I'm sure you heard about tokenization 20 times today, just from different panels. But tokenization of real estate, right? We've done that with many different companies. Tokenization of any kind of financial instruments. We were talking about tokenizing identity as well, but not in the context of tokenizing your identity, but in the context of tokenizing the identity of an AI agent, for example. That's an interesting topic. I haven't heard too much about this. So you can tokenize an AI agent, and then you can rent that AI agent depending on what you want to achieve, and you can benefit from renting that agent because you own a token of that agent, right? You can tokenize a lot of things, which is very interesting. Real estate is the one that's very tangible for people because you can be outside of the US and you can buy $200 worth of a project in the US if you want to. You can do that and you can sell it 2 days later, which is today impossible in real.
I appreciate it. And if we stay a little bit on Costas here, the topic of real-world adoption. I know that you've been working with the Athens Stock Exchange, if I'm not mistaken, and you're going that extra mile, zero-knowledge proof on the order book, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, that sounds rather techy, rather advanced as well. I mean, can you talk us through that use case, if that sounds relevant?
Of course. So one of the problems now that many European countries are facing is Revolut. Revolut is killing the small countries. Now, for example, Greece. Imagine a small country with all of the debt and everything. You can buy with all of the applications, with a single click, Apple, Google, Microsoft, all of the stocks, all of the shares you can imagine in the world. Who is going to buy a Greek stock? There is no way. The new generation will never do it anymore. So they had to find a new solution, right? And the only solution at the moment with audience is people with a wallet in crypto. Because generally they are spenders. These people are doing trading already. SUI is very, very strong on DeFi. We know that. And then eventually they had to decide, look, either we stay traditional, only KYC people in Greece can buy stocks, or we go into a blockchain mode. We're tokenizing the KYC, of course, of the identities of the users, but at the same time, someone with their wallet can buy a Greek stock in a single click. And this changes the narrative and gives them some extra life for the next 10, 15 years, because otherwise they will die off because of Revolut. This is the whole idea. And then we decided even with the Greek government for some other things, like they're trying to tokenize agriculture itself. And now we have a new museum and some vineyards that they're saying, look, if you want to have high quality, and then you go against Italians or against French, you need to have some transparency from the crop, from the grape, into your wine that you're drinking. And then we said, okay, now the most difficult part in my life, do you know what it is? Convincing people at the government that blockchain is not just trading Bitcoin. They don't understand it. And some people even feel that mining is people have to dig, like to find Bitcoin on the ground, right? And then you have to go with real applications and explain, look, blockchain is a global database for transparency, and it's also giving you access to many people who are gamers, who are traders, to do your stuff as a country now in a digital world for the new generation. And that's why the Greek stock market decided, look, we have to take a bet. We cannot stay with the paperwork of institutional investors and so on. Tokenize the stocks into a blockchain. Let's go with SUI.
Hey, sorry, did you say tokenize a country?
tokenizing
the stock exchange of a country.
Oh, okay. I thought you said the country itself. I'm like, no.
I think that's for next year's panel. Maybe if we jump now onto our next kind of segment, which is UX, developers, ecosystem growth. And here, Benjamin, for yourself, I mean, the new X portal, at least in my opinion, the update really emphasizes on the mix of UX and security. I mean, how important is user experience and this kind of type of design in onboarding the next billion users?
So I think the entire discussion for many years has been, in some sense, misguided. What do I mean by that? I think solving for security at first is crucial and it's foundational. If you don't have security, of course, you don't have anything. But in some sense, solving the security problem for a network is much simpler than solving the UX problem. Because UX requires a completely different mindset when you have early adopters, when you have early majority, and when you want to penetrate the mass market. So whether you talk about users and the expectations and understanding that users have generally, approaching the first million users, the first 10 million, the first 100 million is very different from approaching the first 1 billion users. And then this similarly applies to builders. I believe that for too much time, we've been only focused on the giga brains, like exceptional people that are brilliant, can understand rocket science and hardcore math. And those are the special chosen ones only that will build on blockchains. But this has needlessly restricted the entire conversation related to builders to only a few people. And I believe there's a kind of revolution in terms of user experience and barriers that have been knocked down with the last application that we've shared, where through AI, we're simplifying the experience and saying, you know, writing code is not the hardest thing anymore. You can actually write code with AI, start a conversation, build an application, and do it today. And we've seen that people have a crazier reaction and excitement to this than almost anything else. Because up until this point, the way they could interact maybe with blockchains was only trading, investing, and so on, and that's cool, that's important.
Yeah.
But then when you put this tool in the hands of people, it changes their perspectives, and you tap into a completely different market segment, where you go from millions to maybe tens of millions of users that become builders today through an application like VibeOX.
Yeah, I understand, and I think it's easier to judge than it is to create. And if you have more people trying to create that, they start understanding, okay, well, this is usable, and then that subjectivity layer maybe kind of reduces. Maybe, Kostas, to yourself here, I mean, you've spoken about developer-first design, and have a bit of a tricky one for you. I mean, is better tooling more important than more liquidity at this stage of Web3?
I think they're equally important. For us, especially for the creators of SUI coming from Facebook, we realized that, oh, the people who know Java, C++, and JavaScript are in the hundreds of millions probably across the world. The people who are doing Solidity, Move, or all of the other languages here are just a few thousand. There were many, like at the very beginning, there was like the misconception that we have to take like developers from Ethereum and get them into the SUI Move, and like vice versa. Like it was a debate. But it was a big mistake, right? Everybody was doing the big mistake that, oh, I'm going to get the few thousand users like developers from the other chain that are coming to us. No, no, no. You need the Java developers and the JavaScript developers as well. That's why you have to design systems that are familiar with someone who is working for a bank, which at the same time, this person is also a user of the blockchain. And then there was an indistinguishability element where you say, oh, the developers themselves are the first advocates for the community because they're like in a scale-free network. They are the clusters where they're convincing their government, their CEOs, or all of the people who have influence in the country to use blockchain technology. And this is where you start. So eventually they're connected. They are not like two different groups necessarily. What we did is we helped the developers to, of course, the AI tooling is playing a huge role now. The learning curve between Solidity users 2017 and 18 and now, it's completely different. Someone can learn typing on any new language in 2 days. In 2 days, you can write a smart contract, and there are tools now to check if your smart contract is secure. Again, it's AI. I don't believe this problem exists anymore. You just need to make it easier for people to use it. At the same time, users, we have to forget the passwords. I know personally, because I was in the cryptography team and security team of Facebook, the average Instagram user will never remember a 12-word password. There is no way this will happen. So we have to figure out some other things like Face ID or login with Google and Facebook, like we have ZK login on SUI, that onboarding is becoming seamless. And imagine that SUI is also a platform that many gamers are coming, AAA games. These people cannot change their behavior. They just want to very quickly. People are like getting bored nowadays,
And
right?
just get there.
Yes, single click. You have an account on chain. You can now do trading. You can now play your game. You can now do whatever you want.
And one, two,
Nothing
three.
else.
Yeah, no, I understand. And as we're approaching the end of our panel here, I mean, I have a question for anyone that would like to take it. So, are we still building for, let's consider the crypto natives in the audience, or should we start building for the BlackRocks, the Reddits, the governments of the world? And some of them, of course, in the audience, and I'm very happy to say that we are seeing more of a mix, but it does still feel like there's two segments of demographic, more crypto native or more traditional native.
Well, we can't, that's a choice that we cannot make, right? You cannot decide to stop building for the people who have been supporting you for the last 10 years and say, forget about that, I'm moving on. But I think, you know, if you want a little bit of provocation, I would say one of the mistakes we made in the industry is we should not have built wallets to begin with. Because the wallet is actually now the entry into the world of crypto, and it's, I would argue, none of them are really good, right? And it's not actually the right way to engage. We should not ask people to engage with the wallet to engage with the blockchain. We should ask people to your point, dream about something, experience something, and the wallet and the blockchain and everything else should be transparent for them. And so the wallet is actually one of the legacy, if we can talk about legacy in crypto, I think that's a legacy that we are going to have to overcome to move forward.
Yeah, please, Arthur.
Yeah, interestingly, first of all, you need to build for everyone, right? And these are neutral platform, and I think their value come from being neutral platform and being accessible to everyone and open to everyone. I think that is fundamental to the value prop of blockchains. This openness. That's number one. Number two is, I care a lot about security, and I think especially for institutional use cases, for real use cases, security is going to matter a lot. Paradoxically, I think security has mattered very little until now. And the reason is, if your main use case is you're going to go buy a meme coin, and you say, hey, I have a 1 in 1,000 chance that this meme coin is going to 1,000x. If you say, like, well, on top of that, you should add like a 1 in 10,000 chance that there's a bug and all the money is going to be drained. You don't care because it's a long shot. It's a long shot anyway. So wormhole gets hacked. Whatever. We'll keep playing. Ronin gets hacked. Whatever. People don't care. The BlackRocks and all these people, they do care tremendously, and so I think they will change the dynamic in the industry. Number one. Number two, I think we've been talking about user experience and developer experience in one breath. They are still distinct population, and it should not be like lumped into the same bag. They have different, they do different things, and they have different needs. I already commented on like vibe coding for users. The thing for developers is like most smart contracts are a few smart contracts. You have multi-signature, a DEX, lending protocol, and a token. And this is why you've seen the popularity of frameworks like OpenZeppelin. A lot of people, they want to do some touch-ups, they want to do some things, but there's not a lot of smart contracts beyond that. And the ones that are beyond that tend to be extremely sophisticated. Like they are, and there's the most exciting ones, but there's also the one that you're least likely to be able to just dream. AI, large language models, reasoning models will get to the point where they can do formal verification, and that will be a huge game changer, not just for blockchains and crypto, but for all of cybersecurity.
Yes.
I think that will come in the next couple of years. But for now, I do think that security is going to become more important, not less important, even though paradoxical lesson has been that it wasn't so important.
And I know, I can see, Benjamin, you want to jump in. I just want to give a follow-on to you as well, because we haven't spoken about it at all. We've just spoken really about the tech and the users. But does location matter? We've had personal conversations about America. A lot of people are as well. Is location,
100%.
country a thing as well? So please,
I'm wondering what you're going to ask, but the answer is 100%. No, I would say something crazy first. What we are going to see much faster happen is we're going to see the first billion agents and AI on-chain than the first billion humans. And understanding this very simple and crazy initially idea makes it very clear that the user experience needs to be different, the performance needs to be different, the security needs to be different. But the most important part is understanding what that actually entails in practice. Building the rails to enable this type of coordination, transfer, and so on, and accommodating to the speeds of what is happening in AI, not in 6 months, not in 12 months, right now. I don't think most people understand how crazy the progress is today. How O3 Pro that was released yesterday changes the perspective, and you have sort of genius level researchers that you could use today. So what I'm saying is we can certainly not build for the past. If we look where this technology will go, it's that direction and almost faster than any other direction on Earth. Now, US is just the bedrock of where this happens. You'll have it everywhere around the world, like Dubai and the UAE region, Asia, and so on. But I still feel there's no place on this earth like the US in terms of ambition, hunger, appetite, and craziness. And you cannot do it without all of them. So this is why location matters extraordinarily. And then if you're not in the US, it's a very hard pill to swallow that you don't exist. You might have the best product, but if you're not present in the biggest market of the world, it's a very tough reality.
I'm choking on that pill already, unfortunately.
This is why I'm in the US, by the way. US all the way.
Kostas, you want to come on?
I agree 100% by the way with everything. I also have data to support. I'm participating on hackathons. I don't know if you go like us, like co-founders and so on, and see how developers are producing stuff. There is no way someone will get into a new blockchain or doing something if they don't use an AI tool now. 0%. All of the people, I was in Vietnam 2 weeks ago, everybody is not even going to the documentation. Nobody's starting with the documentation anymore. They just go to ChatGPT or Gemini. They can see a template first. Oh, this is how I do my work. And this is when they're getting the inspiration, the stimulation in their brain to start working on the stuff. So we have to work under the assumption that there is not only users and devs, there is also agents now. The agents are going to pretty much be whatever Benjamin mentioned, the first billion like in numbers of users of the blockchain. And at the same time, I have the same feeling because the US at the moment is pretty much conquering this particular industry. You have to start from there and influence all of the evolution of AI to also be like very helpful for the blockchain itself, because there are two things that are happening at the moment. AI is requiring the blockchain for transparency and ownership of the data. We cannot leave it like for free. Nobody knows how your data is used. And the only thing we have now as a weapon, as society, is the blockchain. And at the same time, the blockchain is requiring AI to evolve. Right? This is where we are at the moment. I cannot even imagine a world in the future without any of the two being like hands in hand together.
Sounds like a beautiful symbiosis. And I think when we talk about beauty, we are in Paris, the city of love, and we are just about to wrap up our panel here. And I'm a bit of an optimist. I'm an idealist. I believe that coming together makes things better. I have a question for the four of you before we wrap up. We have 2 minutes, but can we imagine a world where SUI's object model runs on Tezos' governance, secured by Hedera's privacy protocol, scaled by MultiversX's sharding?
I don't think there's a need. I'd rather Tezos do it all.
I believe bridging will be a thing. I have a feeling that some niche markets will be occupied by a particular blockchain just because you have some expertise. But some bridging will happen eventually. I cannot see how we can avoid it.
What I would say is very soon, people will clearly not care about what's under the hood. They will just dream an idea. It will be so exciting and so simple to put that idea into practice that the rest will be details, whether it happens on MultiversX with some other tools or in collaboration with this. I'm sure that these tools will enable them to interoperate, build, deploy, and do it in almost minutes, maybe, than what you had before. And I think that's the both builder and user mindset that we'd love to live in.
I can add something as well. The AI eventually will tell you which blockchain is useful for what you're building, and the developer will not even see it. Right? You want something on chain, the AI will tell you use this for that, use the other thing for UX, and so on. It will be hidden.
There's just one thing I'd like to say about AI because it's important. And I used to be a research engineer at Waymo, working on self-driving car. I do have a background there. I think it's undoubtedly there's massive development happening in the field. And it's moving very quickly. Most Pro very impressive. There's obviously enormous potential there, and yes, there's some intersection with the blockchain industry. However, I would say for the longest time, the marketing angle of the blockchain industry is like, look, we're exciting new tech, and at the end of the day, it is accounting software, right? Accounting is super important, but blockchains are accounting software. And now that there's a technology that's, and I love blockchains, I love Tezos, but yes, there's a lot more that will come out of AI than will come out of blockchains, obviously. And I would say maybe 15–20% of what people talk about in AI and blockchain space is real stuff, and 80 or maybe 90% is riding coattails. 80–90% is like, shit, we were the hot thing in 2021. Look, we're relevant. It was the same thing with Metaverse when Facebook was trying to do Metaverse. Like, oh yeah, blockchain for Metaverse, of course. We're going to create this whole 3D environment. But wait, how will we track who owns what? Oh, we'll use a blockchain. That's a critical component. No, the critical component is building the entire universe. Same thing. It's going to have billions of dollars being poured into models. It's like, but what will the models use to transact? It's a detail. I wish it were more important, but let's face it, the industry is talking about AI primarily as a marketing technique.
I disagree, but
Yes. I mean, when AI is the fastest growing market in the world, incomparable to any other market, I mean, whether that's marketing or pure revenue, I want that revenue to come.
I think,
yes, please.
So to answer your question, the answer is technically the features you mentioned, yes, they will be together into a platform and no one is going to care about who is delivering it. And if we need to ask that question again in 5 years, we are in trouble.
Fantastic. Well, it feels like AI is going to make you love each other one way or another. Thank you so much for listening. I think that's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you.